what is jQuery? Well, jQuery is really just a JavaScript library. In fact, it's one of many JavaScript libraries available for use today. JavaScript libraries are intended to make JavaScript easy to use. Complex tasks such as document traversal, event handling, animations, and AJAX are made much easier when using a JavaScript library. JavaScript libraries are also aiming to make JavaScript cross-browser compliant. For anyone that's ever written JavaScript before, one of the first things you probably did was try to detect what type of browser the end user was using, and then use conditional logic to execute the right code for that browser. It's a tedious task, and it's hard to maintain. Well, with a JavaScript library like jQuery, you just write jQuery code and let it worry about how to execute it on what browser. jQuery is also very lightweight, coming in at under 56K. It's at least lightweight considering what you get for the product. Also, that 56K download should only be incurred the very first time a user goes to a web page that uses it. Subsequent requests should go to a cached version in the browser. jQuery is also the base for what we'll be looking at today, jQuery UI, which introduces a whole set of user interface enhancements that you can use in your web-based applications. The jQuery team has done an excellent job of separating these two out so that if you don't want to use the UI components, you're not forced to, and you don't take the 300 KB size of the UI interface. So why would we want to use jQuery tabs? Well, the main reason, the most important, is to improve the look and feel of our applications. As developers, we're constantly trying to strike a balance. We want to show as much information as we can to our end users, but we don't want to overload them. And jQuery tabs can help you achieve that goal, that balance. It helps to reduce clutter and can also aid in gaining back some valuable page real estate in your applications. jQuery UI also implements a theme engine. For those of you familiar with Apex, we have 20 themes available in the theme repository. And this is a very convenient means of switching themes and making things really easy. Well, jQuery UI took a very similar approach. They have several canned themes. We'll take a look at those. And it's extremely easy to switch from one to the other. Another important reason is cost. As I mentioned before, there are a lot of JavaScript libraries out there, but not all of them are free. jQuery and its UI counterpart are published under both the MIT and GPL licenses. So you just pick the one that's right for your project. Okay, well, let's go ahead and do a live demo. We're going to break this down into 3 parts. First, we'll install jQuery and jQuery UI into Apex. Then we'll go ahead and implement tabs. And finally, I'm going to come back around. I'm going to address some common questions, and I'll modify the code to answer those questions. Let's go ahead and get started. So here's my application. And the application is really simple. It's 2 pages, in fact. For those of you who might be a little concerned about code, don't worry about writing down any code. We'll make this application available for download within the next 24 hours. And this is an example of a page that's just a little, perhaps, over-cluttered. We're trying to present a lot of information, and what I want to do is use jQuery tabs to clean it up some. So the 2 pages here are before jQuery tabs and then after. And notice that currently they're exactly the same. This is where we're going to do all of our work today. This is page 2. So let's go ahead and get started. Again, the first step, we just want to install jQuery into our application. Now, that's not a very difficult task, but there's 2 different ways to do it in Apex. One, you could use internally hosted files. That means you go to the websites for jQuery and jQuery UI. You download the necessary files and then upload those files to your local application server, and include them then in your application. And that's a great choice if you have internal applications. But for applications facing the public internet, there's a better choice, and that's to use the Google-hosted files. And it's better for two reasons. One, the odds are increasing that a user could come from one application to yours or one web page to yours and already have these files cached in their browser, so they don't have to download it again. But two, it's just a lot easier to do so, and you'll see that in just a second. What I'm going to go to do is edit this page and use those Google files as I was describing. To do that, I'll edit the page here, and you see here in the header the code necessary. This is all you need to include jQuery and jQuery UI in your Apex application. Now I've put this in at the page level. If you'd like to make it available to the entire application, you can do so just by going to the page template rather than the HTML header for an individual page. The first line of code here brings in a style sheet, and this relates to the themes of jQuery UI. We're using the base theme here. It's very easy to switch the theme we're using just by changing that one word. The second line here just brings in the Google JavaScript API, and we subsequently use that here by loading jQuery and jQuery UI, making them available in our application. We can even be version specific with Google. Once we've added that code to our page, we've finished installing jQuery and jQuery UI into our application, and we can move forward from there. At this point, I want to take just a couple minutes and turn the presenter ball back over to Dave.
Thanks, Dan. Folks, as you know, we've got a long way to go in today's demonstration, and Dan will be explaining just exactly how to use jQuery and show you the working application, and then do some, as he said, answer some common questions by modifying the code. Just a quick word about our services here at Skill Builders. We do provide a lot of Apex consulting, training, mentoring, and our consulting services, we do welcome short-term assignments. So if you have any specific tasks, even installing Apex and getting started with your first applications, we're glad to guide you along the way, either on-site or done remotely. Of course, training classes, either online or on your customer site, and we'll be happy to customize those classes for you to your needs. We do also full site lifecycle application development, and as we've done for Brown University and several other customers, where we've designed the application from the ground up and built the application, obviously provide ongoing support for that. So there's a lot of things we can help you with on your Apex and Oracle needs, and we hope that you will keep us in mind. And with that, I'll just pass it back over to Dan for the remainder of the presentation. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Dave. Okay, so brief recap. We've gone ahead and installed jQuery now. It's available in our application, and it's time to go ahead then and implement the tab solution. Let's take one look again at the page as it currently is. Anytime you know you have to scroll to the right, you probably have an issue in your design. Scrolling down, not so much a big deal, but scrolling right and left is not very convenient for your end users. So let's go ahead and start the tab implementation. The first thing I want to do is create a new region template. It's not going to be a complex region template. In fact, it's very simplistic when compared to what we're currently using. The region template you see now has the title of the region displayed. It also has the bar here in blue with the background color. That's all fine, except that when we go to a tab-based implementation, it'd be a little redundant to display the title here. We can use the tabs themselves to display what it is we'll be looking at. So I want to clean that up some, and I'll do so by creating a custom region template. So let me go down, I'll edit the application, go into the shared components, and into templates, we're going to create a new region template. And in this case, we're going to do it from scratch. I'll select the region type, scratch, and I'm just going to call this something like basic div. And you'll see why here in just a minute. As for the template class, I'll just come down to one of the custom classes and click on Create. So we're done with the basic creation, but what it does, it sort of populates some code we don't want to use. I'm going to go in here and modify this. This is what it put in, and this is what we really need. You can see I called it basic div because all we've done is wrapped what the body or the content is for the region in a very basic div tag. I've at least included an ID, which will allow jQuery to do some things later. And if there were any specified region attributes, they'd be included as well. So I'll apply that change, and we're finished creating our custom region template. I can now go back to edit the page. And the next step is to prep our regions to be tabbed. So the first thing I have to take into consideration is which regions on the page I want tabbed and which I do not. Those regions that are to be tabbed need to be sequential. Here, I'm using 20, 30, 40, and 50. They're all sequential, and in fact, on this page, I don't have any regions that I don't want tabbed. So this is fine. I'm good there. A couple other things you need to consider. We need all of our regions to be in column 1. If you look now at the page, we have a couple regions. These charts over here, they're in column 2. We'll need to fix that. We'll also make sure to apply to each region that new custom template we just created. And finally, we're going to give each region a unique ID that allows jQuery to hook into it. So let's get started prepping the regions. Come into the first. Again, we give each a custom ID. We assign the template we just created and confirm that the region is in column 1. This one's good, so I'll go to the next. Here's our static ID, our new template, and column 1. This one is one of the ones we need to change. And that should do it. So we've completed the second part, which was configuring our regions so that they're ready to be tabbed. The next step is to add some HTML that jQuery can use to display the tabs as we'd like them to be displayed. This HTML I add needs to encapsulate the regions I'd like to be tabbed. So we need to put part of it here to start, and then part of it here to end. I'll add the first one in sequence 10. This is just going to be a basic HTML region. The title can be something indicative of what it is. This is one of those regions that the end user will never see. We don't want any template. We just want to display exactly what we have entered in the body. And I'll change the sequence as well. And here's the content. So what this is again, we're adding HTML for jQuery to know what tabs to add to the page. Really all it is a div with an unordered list. It's actually quite simple. The div has an ID, and go ahead and remember that ID. It's just tab start region. The unordered list, again, quite simple. The href element of each simply links up to the ID of the static IDs I just added to each of our 4 regions. And the content for the anchor element is simply what we would like the tab to display visually to the end user. So these are how they relate, and that's all jQuery really needs. I then need to add the end tag for that div. I didn't complete it there, so I'll add that now. Okay, so we've completed the third part, which is to encapsulate all of our regions with the HTML jQuery will use to create the tabs. Finally, I just need to add a little bit more JavaScript to bring this all to life. I'll go ahead back into the page header to do that. And just below what we added previously, I'll come down a couple lines and add what you see here. The first two lines and the last two lines are simply telling the browser that what's in between is JavaScript. The meat and potatoes is really right here, these three lines. I simply declare a variable called tabs, and this is a jQuery selector. jQuery selectors are really interesting, especially if you come from a database background. Think of the name jQuery. The name of the JavaScript library includes the word query, and we're used to queries. This is what they call a jQuery selector, and we're also used to select statements. So you can think of this as select, and you can think of this as your where clause. Only you're not selecting data from a table or a view. Instead, you're selecting elements in the HTML document. Now, if you remember, this is the ID I assigned to that static HTML region I added for the tab markup. So we're selecting that element. Subsequently, I can turn that into a tabbed element just by adding this line here. And finally, one more method to show the tabs. So I'll apply this change, run the page, and voila, we have tabs. So you can see how easy jQuery tabs are to get in an Apex application. Now, I'll just show you the before again. So we have a contrast. This is before, and this is after. Now, a lot of questions pop up with jQuery tabs, and I want to go ahead then and address a few of those now. The first of which is, how do I change the theme? If you see the theme in this particular application now, it doesn't exactly match our template, the template we've chosen in Apex. I want to take just a second to show you the jQuery page. This is the jQuery homepage for the user interface side. You can look at all of the available interactions, widgets, and effects that you get from this product. We're only looking at one here, the tabs. But you can also view all the themes. I'm going to go into the gallery and show you all of the options you have. Now, these are canned themes. Just like Apex provides us in that environment, jQuery UI provides us the same kind of themes. So with this particular project, I have a blue theme in Apex, so I want to pick one of these blue ones. You can just click on them to view a preview of what the theme looks like. Here's what the tabs will appear like. I'll choose one of these blue ones. This looks better. It'll fit our theme better. So let's go with that. Notice the name here. It's Redmond. So I'll take that back to our application. Go to Edit the Page. And into the JavaScript. And back up to that very first line, the CSS we had included before. Again, this is where we were referring to the theme we're using in jQuery UI. This is one of those hosted files from Google. And simply by changing this word, applying the change, we have a new theme. This look and feel is obviously much better suited for our Apex template. So switching the themes is a very easy thing to do. The next question I often get is one about fixing the width. As you can see, it seems like the themes are taking up 100% of the page. And that's often not what people want. And it's not that the themes per se are doing this. It's simply that our template is forcing the themes to do that, and let's see why. I'm going to go into Firebug and drill down onto the top part of the tabs here. Now this should look familiar, this div right here. If you look at the bottom of the screen where I am, this is what we added to tell jQuery what to do with the tabs. So you can see how that works. Well, if I start to traverse up the tree from here, I'll run into this table data element with an ID of content body. I see that it has a width attribute. It's set to 100%. If I right-click that and delete it, I notice that the content above the tabs seem to collapse some. And that's part of what I wanted, but they didn't collapse all the way. So I'm going to continue traversing up until I get to this table element here. And I see that it also has a width element set to 100%. So I'll delete that attribute. And now I see my tabs collapsing the way I want them. In fact, if I look at the calendar, our buttons aren't over to the right anymore. And our charts are a bit smaller as well. So this is starting to look a bit better. It'll adjust itself for the content. But what I've just done is edited the HTML on the current page. What I need to do is tell jQuery to do this for me every single time this page is loaded. I'll do that by adding just one line of code. Let's go back in to edit the page, and I'm going to turn off Firebug here. I'll go in to edit my JavaScript, and where we previously had just 3 lines of code, I'm going to add one more. So right before I show the tabs, I'm using another jQuery selector. And think of the where clause here. We're saying where the table with an ID of this and a table data element with an ID of this. These are what I'm selecting. And then I'm saying remove attribute. And the attribute I want to remove is width. I'll apply that change. Run the page. And it looks like we have the correct width. So now every time this page refreshes, we won't have to worry about that. Now that part of this implementation could vary depending on your Apex template. So you'll need to find which particular elements are setting the width to 100% in whichever template you're using in Apex. But it should be relatively easy to find with a tool like Firebug. The next question I get quite often is, how can I group multiple regions under a single tab? In this case, it might make more sense to have both chart regions under a single tab. So let's take a look at how we can achieve that. Again, I'll go to edit the page. And kind of like the way I had previously grouped these 4 regions in between a start and an end region, what I need to do is take these 2 regions now and group them together. I'll do it again using very basic HTML regions and with even less content than before. I want them, if you look at the sequence, right before this one, right after this one. So 35 and 55 would be appropriate. Again, these are just going to be basic HTML regions. Give them an appropriate name. Remove any template from them and put them in the appropriate spot. So the HTML I need is really simple. We're just going to wrap these regions in a basic div with an ID that I can key off of. Just need to add the end, again, here at 55. Okay. Now I've made the necessary changes to encapsulate the regions I'd like to display as one page. But I need to update that HTML, that list that jQuery is keying off of for the regions. Because remember, right now I have 4 list items. I want to take that down to 3. So I'm going to remove the last two and replace them with a single list item. And this keys off that new ID I added for the wrapper div. And we'll just call it charts. I'll apply the change and run the page. And here we have just 3 tabs with 2 charts grouped together under one. So it is possible to group multiple regions under a single tab just by encapsulating them and adjusting the HTML. Another question I get often is with regards to authorization. This application currently uses open door authentication. And if you look in the bottom left-hand corner, you'll see I'm logged in as the admin. The trick here is to know how to change the HTML. Right now, I've set it up to where this customers region is only visible if I'm logged in as the admin. I've used an authorization scheme to do this. If you look at before jQuery tabs, I've done the same thing here. This particular region is locked down to an authorization scheme. So what I'll do, I'll log back into the app as another user. When I come in to the basic page, the before jQuery tabs page, I can see that that region's hidden, so I know that it's working. But when I go over to after jQuery tabs, we have a bit of a problem. The customers region is in fact hidden. For some reason I'm seeing the calendar here rather than what I wanted to. If I click on this tab, it works appropriately. That's where the calendar should be. And of course the charts work fine, but when I go to customer, it's not working. This should not have been displayed at all, in fact. So the region, Apex hid the region appropriately, but if you remember that HTML that I added to tell jQuery how to build the tabs, well, that was a static HTML region. So of course, it still tells jQuery to put up a customers tab. What we need to do is adjust that region and make it more dynamic. So here we have the type of region. What I'll do is switch this to a PL/SQL anonymous block. I'll come down into the source and replace this static HTML with some dynamic PL/SQL code. Here I simply declare a variable to hold my HTML, and I begin building that HTML up. We start with the div. Notice this is just what we had before in the static region. Then we use conditional logic in the Apex util package to check an authorization scheme to see if the currently logged in user is in fact the admin. If so, go ahead and add that list item. Then we add the other 2 list items. These are not conditional. We close the unordered list. And I use the HTTP package to push this out to the HTTP buffer. I'll apply that change, run the page, and there we go. We've only have 2 tabs now because I'm not logged in as the admin. So again, I'll log back out. As the admin, my region's back here in before tabs, and in after, I have my region here as well. Those are the most common questions that I find with tabs.